To the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Electrical Supply Guys studios, and we are part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. I'm your host, Porter Hayes of Sports and Culture Arkansas. Alongside me is Jacob Davis from Arkansas Fight, Saturday Down South, and Hog Country. And all live shows are presented by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark, Arkansas. And as always, our podcast is brought to you by Bet Online. It's the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests, events, with the first to market and odds and lines. So Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and the future. So head on over to Bet Online and use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV 50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Jacob, you was actually in the game, in the moment. Got to see Arkansas start off the season 1-0. So raise your hand if your team is 1-0. With a score of 31-24, pros and cons. There's goods and bads, and we can go over that in the show. But Jacob, just start from the beginning, because you said you was there, most of the week. You wasn't there just for game day. So what was the vibe going into the game? Where do you compare it to the Texas atmosphere? Was it even close with SEC Network being there? And then give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, so the vibe was pretty chill. You could kind of feel the electricity around Fayetteville and around Northwest Arkansas all week. I got up there, I think, Wednesday night. Thursday, hit up Fayetteville and was looking around. The stores were all packed. The Razorback gear was pretty much sold out. People were excited, man, and being able to go to Razorback Stadium. You're standing outside Gate 1, and you're just looking at how many people are really here. The Hog Walk was 15 to 20 people deep on each side, all the way up and around the corner to where they enter the Hog Walk. There was just a lot of there was electricity there. I wouldn't compare it to the Texas game, because the Texas game, man, you only get that crowd when you play Texas. But this was a pretty electric crowd. From the start of the game, probably till when Arkansas turned it over there around the goal line, and seeing the fans really pretty much like control the environment and control what was going down on the field. And Cincinnati had those 3 straight illegal procedures or false starts, and I think there was one other another penalty there too. That Arkansas, I mean, the fans basically made an impact on the game and moved Cincinnati back 5 yards each, or 10 yards. I mean, they were a factor in that game. It was a pretty cool atmosphere, being able to sit there and take it all in, man. It was really cool to see that, and I think it's going to get better each game.
And I didn't catch the first quarter. Mine and my wife's anniversary, or 6th anniversary. Big shout out to my wife.
Congratulations.
6 years putting up with me. So I mean that's
it's hard to do
about her character. So so when I got there, and was watching the game, of course it's the first game, but I've seen things that where I stand by my 9-game prediction. There was just things that what I told you and I'd said about KJ Jefferson early on, with him being a second year in this program, him being considered, he's supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC, and if you drop him down to that fifth or sixth, quarterback, and people start, saying, oh, he should be a third. To me, he did not play like a top three quarterback in the SEC. There was just too many wide open underthrows, overthrows. I mean, there was just, and I know that this can be fixed, and this is, I'm not saying he's a horrible quarterback, but just from the play, waiting all season, off season, this is the second off season in that system, he kind of was underwhelming. I know he had a good QBR. I know he had 3 touchdowns, and we'll get in on my superstar, who I've predicted from the get-go on my player of the game. But to me, it was just, it's a good gritty win. We said there's going to be some games where you're going to grind it out. This was one of them. It still was a great win. But if you're going to tell me that this team is going to go, just based off of this performance, that this team's going to go 10 or 11 wins, I don't see it, because there was a lot of things in the secondary. There was a lot of things that, the third down conversions that Cincinnati was able to get, third and longs, was kind of alarming, when you're like, you need those in those big time games, that those are drive killers. And if you keep a team like Cincinnati, look what happened. It was 31-24, and I said that. If you give them a reason to stay in the game, they're going to stay in the game. And my biggest question, and maybe somebody could drop in the comments, maybe you can answer, but, well, I tell you what, I think unless they just blew the whistle early, that end zone play where KJ got tackled in the end zone, I don't see how it wasn't a safety. I don't know. I think it was a little quick to call him down, but that could have been a huge, huge game changer when it comes to the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I really thought it was a safety at first too, but then I went back and watched the replays. I think they were trying to call him down like forward progress, but there was really no forward progress there, because he was going backwards the whole play. I thought it was a safety too, and that pretty much could have changed the momentum there for Cincinnati. I think also part of that, I give props to Cincinnati, because they were playing to show that last year's playoff appearance wasn't a fluke. They had an edge to them, and I think they gave Arkansas, all they could ask for. So I really give props to them. And as far as KJ goes, he did short arm some throws. I mentioned that on Twitter. I was kind of concerned about him kind of short arming the especially the 4 to 5 yard passes there. But man, he played a pretty good brand of ball. He did what he did last year. I think he had 232 yards passing, 68 yards rushing. He had a three touchdown passes and one rushing touchdown. The really great thing about him is he's not going to throw you into mistakes. He's not going to force anything in there that's not there. Now, that Jaden Hazelwood touchdown there at the front corner of the end zone at the pylon, man, against 3 defenders, I thought, man, that's crazy. That's a guy that, you got to believe in your arm if you're going to throw a ball like that. But that was a really good touch pass, a really good adjustment by Jaden Hazelwood to get up there and get it. That guy has some hops, and he has some speed, and he showed that too.
If you've seen that play, he made 2 Cincinnati guys run into each other.
Yeah, so, knocked him out.
The receivers really stepped up. Hazelwood is everything is advertised. And my guy Trey Knox, I told y'all he would have an impact on the game. I didn't think it would be this early, but man, for that kid to ball out the way he did and have 2 touchdowns, I believe in the stat sheet, he only had 75 yards. He led to the team in receiving with 75 yards. But if you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 different receivers that he threw to. You're distributing the ball well. He did a very good game. It's just I seen things that, and I know it's going to be hard for kind of people to hear, but we got to realize if you want your team to be a top team in the SEC, you have to have those high expectations. Yeah. So, like Miss June says, don't be critical of the players, but you've got to realize if you want to step up to that next level, we're not a mediocre team in the SEC anymore. You have to be critical because in college football, 1 game, 2 game, you go on a 2-game losing streak. Well, there goes your chances of being in that SEC championship game. There goes your chances of being in that New Year's Six Bowl. There goes from 9 wins. Now you're to 7.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm going to be more critical this year on this team because you have everybody you got coming back. I know they were banged up on defense and they lost Catalan and Slusher, and that will come back. But you still have to say that there was a lot of things that went wrong in this game that you have to, because I don't want it to be 4 or 5 weeks down the road, this team goes on a 3-game losing streak and you're like, man, I wish we'd have seen these things coming.
Yeah. The offensive line, man, I was kind of suspect about them too because they really didn't generate much of a push outside of the final 5 minutes and 49 seconds of the ball game on Saturday because Arkansas took that final possession and they could have scored on that final possession, but they rolled up a little bit. But they finally exhorted their will to say in that final drive they were saying, all right, we're gonna drain the clock and we're gonna go out there and win this ball game, and they did a good job there. But man, they're gonna have to come Saturday against South Carolina against a really physical defensive line. They're gonna have to figure out a way to generate more of a push on the line and try to get Rocket more of those 5 to 7 to 8 yard runs and try to have more success pounding the football. And there was a couple of times too where KJ, I don't know if it was more of him like just running around because that's what he does, but there was a couple of times where he had to extend plays because the pass protection wasn't there the whole time too. I mean, like Chuck said there though a couple of comments ago, he did say the biggest improvement is from the first game to the second, and we've heard that for a long time, and it's a true thing. I think they know that there's a lot of things to work on. Sam Pittman acknowledged that. Bumper Pool acknowledged that after the game, especially on defense, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, there's a lot of things to correct, but there's a lot of things you can build on too that happen and that were good.
The positive I've seen is just how much the offensive line and defensive line stepped up at the end of the game. I mean, I was just about to say, where's this pass rush? Where's this pass rush?
Right.
And it was quality over quantity. They got the sacks when they needed. They got the pressure when they needed. They had some turnovers. They had a key interception there at the first. I mean, really, you talking about a drive killer. That interception was a drive killer. So when you look at the job that the defense did do, it was. I wish I would have seen a little bit more out of the linebacker play. But when you have your safeties out, you're already game one. What I think it was when we had Blake Ruffino on, when he was talking about when you're having to play outside your game plan. I think they did a lot of that, and they got the win. You beat a top 25 team, and it was the first time since '74. I know there was some confusion.
It was confusion, yeah. I thought it was '75, and that's my fault.
1974 against ESPN even got it wrong.
Yeah.
No, they had the big header, but it was against USC. So I guess from my side of it, I can sit here and say what I've said, but you still won. A win's a win. It was over a top 25 team. We're not sitting here saying you struggled against
Eastern Illinois, San Jose State, Western Kentucky,
Portland State. So,
oh my gosh!
Like I said, with that being said, I want to see this team. I'm excited about this team, and I know I'm being a little negative game one, and it is what it is. But I'm just going off of what I seen, where they could be better.
Yep.
And man, I'm telling you, but you look at the run game. We knew they were established to run, and it's crazy. I've never been this right, and I will never probably be this right this way this season. But you had every running back, other than KJ, he was 3.4 yards a carry, over 5 yards a carry. You had Rocket Sanders 5.8 yards a carry. AJ Green had 6. Durbin had 8.8 yards a carry. So, I mean, they were running the ball effectively. If you can get in that 3 to 4 range, you're getting 3 to 4 yards a carry. You want 4 to 5, but at least I mean, if you're getting 3 yards a carry, I mean, that is a huge deal when you're as balanced as you were.
Yeah.
And that is what it's crazy what Sam Pittman has similarly done, like what Brett Bielema has done. But you know what? It's like you have more belief, you have more faith, and you have more continuity when it comes to the coaches. And if freaking Brett Bielema would have kept his head out of his rear end and kept Sam Pittman, and maybe this is what we would have been seeing 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, instead of him going off and doing his thing, and then now we lost 6 years of good football.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, because it took the years of fertility under Bielema and then under Morris for folks to realize, you know, who can get this thing back on track. It's a guy that's never been a head coach before at the Power 5 level, Sam Pittman. Who would have thought that a offensive line coach that could recruit could come back to the state that, you know, he just did fantastic at, and could be 13-11 after 2 games or 2 seasons, 1 game into his 3rd year after being like they win like 6 games. They won 6 games before he took over as head hog. 13-11. That's basically on the Bobby Petrino rise there.
Yeah. Well, and that just goes to show you what, when you believe in your coach, if you, it's weird. I can't remember.
It's all about culture.
The guy, he's on the NBA countdown. The guy that he wears the glasses, like Eddie or Ernie. He said, I'm at a get to. I get to do this. And these Arkansas players, they get to play for Sam Pittman. They get to play for the University of Arkansas. That's like what Pittman says it's in his office. You're not playing for the University of Arkansas. You're playing for the state of Arkansas. And that's true. Yeah. That's bought in. And I'll tell you what, this team has fought through more adversity in the last 10 years. And where they're at now, I don't know of another school that has fought and overcome so much to where the roller coaster from Bobby Petrino to the lowest of the lows after the Chad Morris. I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse than John L. Smith, here comes, Chad Morris. Now we're at this peak. We're not at the top where we're at the top of the SEC yet, but, they're at the top of where you're the belief and you get this team, they have a very good chance. And what Kevin says, Cincinnati would have beat South Carolina by 3 touchdowns. That's true. I watched that game.
If it wasn't for South Carolina's freaking special teams, I mean, they probably would have been tied going to overtime against Georgia State. And Georgia State's no slouch, but, I mean, when they beat Tennessee, they were down. Like, South Carolina is supposed to be this darling in the SEC East, and, I mean, could hardly get by them. I mean, you have Spencer Rattler, the number 2 quarterback in the SEC, according to the Jordan Rogers on SEC Nation.
QBR? You tweeted it out.
23.6, I think. 28.6. I'm sorry. I was making it worse.
I went to Ozark, so you might have to correct me, but is that not an F? I mean, if you
that is
graded on paper and you got a 28 at Ozark, it was an F.
I mean, I went to El Dorado High School, and that was an F.
Was an F there?
That's failing. Yeah. Haynes King, like these guys that were supposed to be Heisman candidates or quarterbacks of big time teams or first round picks. Haynes King, a 49. Will Levis, a 46, and Spencer Rattler, Mr. All Everything, 28.6 for South Carolina last night. But man, simply incredible. I hate it. Will Levis, Mr. First Round pick at Kentucky, man, a 46. That's not going to get you to the pros. That's not going to get you a first round pick.
Yeah, there was a lot of people high on Levis, and then what was Hooker's? Hooker had a pretty good game.
Hooker had a 79-9.
79. But you also got to look at the teams that they played against.
Yeah.
And, it's just crazy that people put so much hype on somebody who hasn't even snapped, ain't even played a snap for that school.
Right.
I've said it. If you can't win like that at Oklahoma, it's hard for me to believe that you can win like that. But then again, they're going to the SEC East, and it's and they might not. They might go 6-6. I don't know. I don't care. That's the one school I don't care about. I hope they go 0-11. I don't want them to win a game. But then again, when you struggle against a team like Georgia State, and we're going to have the guy from Spurs Up show on Wednesday, so I'm going to get all my ranting out now. That way we can have a civil conversation on Wednesday night. But watching that South Carolina game and having the hypes with the new lights and the new coach and doing his little TikToks and stuff, to have that struggle win against Georgia State, I loved every bit of it, because they're thinking they're good because they got to win. And I'm like, you struggled against Georgia State,
Exactly.
They got to come into Arkansas, and you're looking at what, Arkansas did against Cincinnati, and they've got to, fine-tune some things up. But you've got South Carolina, then you've got Missouri State, and then you've got that 2-gauge stretch between Texas A&M and Alabama. So you got 2 more games to really button things up. But they do have to kick it in gear if they're gonna be that number 2 team in the SEC, because we're talking about, that's something we haven't said yet. We're looking for who's going to be that number 2 team in the SEC West. That's above Texas A&M. That's above LSU, and we're watching LSU right now, 17-3. So guess what? That's a huge confidence when you're talking about where Arkansas's place is in the SEC West. We're seeing a team, and unless LSU is just that bad, I mean, Coach Kelly looks like he's just lost on the sideline. So that gives Arkansas hope. There's a team that you can really overtake when it comes to the seeding. So let's see what happens this week. I'm very excited, and we'll get into the defensive side of the ball here in a minute. But, man, I was really happy to see Knox come alive, get some catches, get some touchdowns. Warren Thompson even had a key catch. They were throwing more out of the backfield. I mean, they weren't just relying on KJ's running in the run game. They were throwing out of the backfield, those 3 tiers that we talked about. And it's the running back in the flat. You had your tight end play, and then you had your deep ball. So, I mean, they looked really good. Yeah,
and Trey Knox, man, that ball he took out of the flat and he did not lose any speed. Like, boy, was hauling. I mean, he looked really good.
Wide open, he did not know what to do. I think he caught the ball, and he was like, I am so wide open. He kind of froze for a second, and then he ran it in. I mean, it was incredible. And you talk about speed. He put on 50 pounds, and to have that much speed, he was trucking.
Yeah. I mean, if you were timing him on a 40-yard dash, I guarantee you he was running at least a 4.6.
Oh, 4.6, 4.7 easy with pads on. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude was hauling, and he looked good. 6 catches, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The most touchdowns he scored in a single game in his Razorback career. Honestly, one of the best performances in Week 1. I think that is the best performance in Week 1, because we already talked about KJ. Yeah, he was 18 of 26 or 232 yards and 68 yards rushing for total touchdowns. But, I mean, Trey Knox made the impact. He made the impact. Matt Landers played well. He showed up early in the game. You had Jaden Hazelwood, the other guy that was a transfer. I mean, he caught 3 passes for a touchdown. We already talked about that. Rashad Dubinian, who Devin Talley just mentioned, he showed up. The guy, he's fast. I mean, number 6 coming out of the backfield, freshman out of Cedar Grove High School in a suburb of Atlanta. His position coach is Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith was at Cedar Grove, if you didn't know that history there, before he was in high school. So, Rashad Dubinian having a true freshman out there and being able to show his speed. If you have a freshman out there that is showing out already like that, he's probably going to be a dang good one.
Well, that just adds another back. You're talking about the loss of Dominique Johnson. Here you go with somebody right there ready to replace him.
Yeah.
That just shows you the stable of running backs that Arkansas has, and that's going to come key. In the end, they just grinded this game out, overpowered Cincinnati, proved why they are an SEC school, and that is the biggest thing, Jacob. We've said that they look like an SEC school. They look like an SEC school. They actually, I'm not saying they didn't last year. I'm just saying in this game, they played like an SEC team.
Yeah.
They went to their run game. They didn't want to tip the hat to South Carolina for next week. And a lot of that could have been just, playing that basic style of offense. Let's just run to the flat, throw some passes. do our run game. We know we're bigger than them, stronger than them. We know we're going to, and you brought up the holding penalties. If they're holding that much, they are just showing their signs of weakness, saying we can't match up with you. We have to hold you to stay contained with you. And that just shows Arkansas is bigger. They're faster. They played really good. It's just one critique on defense, button up the third downs. And then on offense, KJ has to hit those open throws. He has to, because those could be the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah, he seemed to be aiming his passes instead of just leading his receivers. But he did come on and lead some of his throws too, which was really good. So, I mean, obviously you've got week 1 to week 2 to get that corrected. And I think they're going to be all right. And, yeah, like Devin said, I mentioned that on Twitter this morning. I said I went back and rewatched that game. And I saw a couple of times where Cincinnati's right tackle had, I think it was Stewart in a chokehold.
Yeah,
but when Arkansas wanted to rush the passer, they did, and they were capable of it. There was one where Eric Gregory, he didn't force a sack, he didn't record a sack, but man, he ate that guy up. I mean, he ate him up and then spit out the bones and said, "Ooh, man, that was good." Ate every single piece of it.
Where he just basically
splattered him. Oh my, yes.
I mean, he turned him into a pretzel. I mean, his legs come over his head.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the ball, if you rewatch the game, I mean, I seen 2 or 3 missed throws by the Cincinnati quarterback where
long throws too.
Could have been, this was if you want to just break it down, this was a game of who made the fewer mistakes.
Yep.
Both teams made mistakes, because you can look at both sides of the ball and been like, well, Cincinnati could have made this play. There was one play where he was in the end zone. I mean, it was a touchdown and just overthrew it, or, just made a bad throw. So, but
yeah, that was kind of a different Cincinnati team than I expected to see. I was expecting more of a run game. They threw 43 passes in that game on Saturday, 26 to 43, 325 yards passing, and I think he threw 2 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, they threw the ball a lot. It was a lot different than the offense I expected to see. But they threw the ball a lot in the second half because we lost Catalon and Slusher too. Yep. You got to take that into consideration, because I mean, it could have been a 14, 17 point game at some point in the fourth quarter had they not lost Catalon and Slush.
Well, and if you think about coming into this game, they didn't know who their running backs were. So, of course,
nope.
they didn't have a run game to where, they were confident in the running back like Arkansas was. And it's funny how we had our Cincinnati guys lined up, where we had Chad on first and Justin on second. How Chad made us feel like, let's respect this team more. And then when Justin was on, it was almost like, well, he's kind of questioning what's really going to happen, and you think Arkansas might win this. It's weird that if we would have flip-flopped the guest, we might have had a different perception on how this game was going to turn out. Just having Chad on later, like, it could have gave us that thought of, oh, man, maybe we need to look at this game, and it might be a 7-point game. And Vegas was, 6.5. So, I mean, it was
right on.
Game. So, I mean, They know what they're doing out there, out west.
Yeah. Dollar DP says Terry Hampton, Jordan Dominic, Landon Jackson, Sanders, and Hazelwood all showed up. Yep, that was your big transfers, man. Don't forget Dwight McLaughlin either, the guy that got that big pick. He got beat a couple of times, man, but they were made mostly in the right position. Hudson Clark, I know that guy gets a lot of flack, and there was people arguing on Facebook and Twitter about how bad Clark was because he missed an assignment. And on that particular play that they were talking about, Clark didn't miss an assignment. He missed a tackle. I mean, that's not getting beat. Getting beat is when you're 10 or 15 yards behind your receiver, trailing him, like Ladarius Bishop was on one of the touchdowns too. So, I mean, you've got to think about, you got to know your verbiage a little bit and talking about getting beat. But Hudson Clark, he's in there because the coaches trust him and because he's given effort every single play. He played really well this past Saturday.
Well, and a lot of that is not fair to Hudson Clark because, That kid got a lot of hype after that one game. They gave him a scholarship, done all the theatrics. Let's give him a scholarship.
Yeah.
And then the kid kind of digressed a little bit. But, that goes on. They watched film on his tendencies. You're dealing with SEC coaches. They seen what he's good at. They seen what he's bad on. You play better coaches, you better play better because they're going to pick you apart. That's what happened. But you know what? He's grounded. He is still there. He's still a starter. He lost his position for a little bit and then got it back. This kid could have ended up same thing with Trey Knox. He could have lost his position. He could have been UCA or A-State or somewhere else, but he stayed, and now he's a starter. I mean, I have nothing but mad props for the kid because when you stick it out, at some point where you got to realize maybe it's better for me to go somewhere else and play. Fully understand that.
Absolutely.
But it gets to the point where you love this team and you want to be a part of this team. You see what something special. I see it. I see something special with this team. I guess that's why I am a little bit more critical on them because, when you care about something so much and you don't see them play up to their potential, you're going to be harder because that's just how much you care about this team. That's what I want. I want to be hard on the team because I want to see them play better. I want them to play like a 10. I want them to prove me wrong. I got wins. I want them to prove me wrong and get to that 10-11 mark and really set this fan base on fire.
Yeah, and man, you got chills on me again, dude. You know where I'm at. I'm on that 10-11 win train. But to start out this season with a win like that, because even I had my doubts, going into this game. What team are we going to see? And it's just crazy to see when KJ Jefferson puts his team on his back and he says, "Let's go win this ball game in the fourth quarter." He goes out there and he does it. The guy is the leader. And it's like Sam Pittman said in the post-game interview. He said he's not just the leader. He's the heart and soul of this team, and he's the vocal leader of this roster. And he's going to go out there, and people respond to what he's trying to sell them. And when people are bought in, when the teammates are bought in, it's hard to stop. These guys love each other, and they want what's best for this program, and they are a team. Something different than what we've seen in previous years.
Well, guys, we are up against a break. We got to give a shout out to our sponsors here. But after the commercial break, we're going to talk more about this win. We're going to talk about the soccer team's win over Michigan State. Arkansas Athletics had an undefeated weekend, so not many teams can say that. The volleyball team went out to Colorado, won three games out there, didn't even drop a set. We're going to break that down a little bit. So we will catch you after the break.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years in the industry, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
If you want the best service and prices in Northwest Arkansas and Southwest Missouri for all your plumbing and electrical needs, then look no further than Corey Hyman, the plumbing electrical supply guy. Corey is in full steam ahead and providing the best electrical, plumbing, and septic supply service around. So call Corey at 479-301-8220 or email him at chindman, that's HINDMAN, at andersonp.com. Again, that is 479-301-8220.
McCoy Tiger Drug Store of Sheridan, Arkansas, has been the top pharmacy in all of South Central Arkansas since 1895. They were also the 2020 Good Neighbor Pharmacy of the Year. They not only fix you up with your prescription with timely and friendly service, but also an elite gift shop. All your OTC needs, baby and wedding registries, tuxedo rentals, and much more. They're located at 821 North Rock Street in Sheridan. Give them a call today at 870-942-5121.
And we want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. And we kind of want to introduce a couple of new sponsors. If you didn't tune in to the Wednesday show, we have a new sponsor. It's the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson LLC, with offices in Springdale, Fort Smith, and Ozark. They are the oldest full-service law firm in the River Valley, and they will be the primary sponsor of the Wednesday preview show, where this week, again, we have the guy from the Spurs Up Show, the biggest podcast in South Carolina, and then each week we're going to bring somebody in from the opposing team, beat writer, podcaster, Believe partner, to really break down the game. And also we have a new hotline sponsor. It's Camelot Exteriors out of Norman, Oklahoma. They do a lot of roofing exterior needs in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So if you are in Northwest Arkansas or in the River Valley, you're in the need of a new roof, decking, anything exterior, give these guys a call, and you can click on their link on our website, and we'll get back into the second segment of, really breaking down what you've seen on the defensive side, like I said, with the third downs. But, what was some of the bright spots, Jacob, that you've seen when it come to what you've seen there on the field in live play, the speed of this defense and the difference between now and previous years when it comes to the Razorback defense?
They're always in the right spot. Whether it's at defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, they're usually in the right spot. Yeah, guys are going to get beat sometimes in week one, but they're giving 100% effort, something we haven't seen in previous years except under Pittman. I really did like the pass rush. That's something positive that we haven't seen in a very long time, a four-man rush. I really liked what Jordan Dominic was able to do. The play of El Dorado native Terry Hampton, he was really solid. A guy that looks the part of an SEC defensive tackle. I'm glad we have him as a redshirt senior, a transfer from Arkansas State. That guy, he looked really good. Trying to think of another one, Landon Jackson. All those guys looked really good, man, on the defensive pass rush. I'm really, really positive about that. And the way South Carolina looked on the offensive line last week, this past Saturday, Georgia State was generating a pass rush there. So maybe Arkansas, man, with an 11 a.m. start, Spencer Rattler may have to wake up early, man, because Arkansas is going to live back there with him. They may have to pay rent.
And I haven't seen that. So that's 11 a.m. Central
That is 11 a.m. I believe on ESPN. So
yeah, that's gonna. And you got to think. And I recently took a trip to Michigan, and this is just the crazy thing. Like, you don't think an hour does a difference, but we went to Michigan, and you're an hour ahead. It took me 3 days to get used to the time, getting later, and you're thinking it's like 8 o'clock. It's actually 10.
Yeah.
So that's going to have a huge impact on this game, especially being so early. But I think it's perfect. I think that fits into the timing. I know Razorback fans don't like those 11 o'clock kickoffs, but you know what? That just gives you more time to celebrate after.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I'm as confident in this week's game as I was against Cincinnati that they're going to pull out the win.
Yeah, I don't get too butthurt about a matinee. Anytime. I wish it was against Missouri State, but, I really believe that Arkansas's defensive integrity is being able to have all the guys around the ball on every single play. The defensive backs were there. I really was surprised by how well Simeon Blair played. I think he was a good bright spot there for the Razorback defense. A guy out of Pine Bluff who came in as a walk-on, was really solid, made tackles in space. He didn't miss any assignments at all either. I'm trying to think of Latavius Brenny. He looked really good. The transfer out of Georgia had to come in after Catalon went down. So if Catalon and Slush are both out, you're going to have to depend on Blair and Brenny. I don't think that's going to be too bad of a deal if they played like they did against Cincinnati. But you're not going to see a passing attack like you did against what you saw against Cincinnati this past Saturday, just because Cincinnati was. They kind of had a different kind of style of offense than what we had become accustomed to, a physical offense like they had last year under Desmond Ridder and a power run game there. So that kind of caught us off guard. I was kind of surprised by that. Trying to think of any other bright spots. Obviously, you had Bumper Pool making 13 tackles. If he continues to do that, he's gonna break the record for career tackles in Razorback history. I guess right at the Alabama game or maybe the Texas A&M game if he produces like that. Obviously, he was a bright spot. And then you had Drew Sanders, even Bumper in the post game said that for his first game, Drew had a good game. And I'm not going to be really hard on the defense. Yeah, they gave up 400 yards, but it was a kind of a different 400 yards because at the line of scrimmage, they won. They won the line of scrimmage all day. But I really, really was pleased by the Arkansas defense on Saturday, Porter.
Well, and it goes to what you were saying about the first game, and I can sit here and say it over and over, but it rings true. I mean, we don't know what kind of base defense he was running. We don't know what kind of blitz packages he was running. We don't know how much of that defensive playbook he was really – because, again, I mean, this next game against South Carolina is more of a state – I mean, you want to win the Cincinnati game, but getting that 1-0 in that conference, column – and beating a team like South Carolina, that's going to be huge because you got a game with Missouri State, and then you got your Texas A&M and Alabama coming. So I think we're really going to see a different kind of defense. And if they can get that much pressure on just the base defense, that gives me hope of like, okay, when they really want to bring the pressure, Odom really wants to dial something up that we haven't seen, I think we're going to see it. I think you're going to see something totally different on the defensive side of the ball, especially if Catalon's out. We haven't heard anything, no updates on his condition. So we don't know how long he's out, if he's even going to be out more than a game.
Yeah,
we don't know that yet. So
we'll probably find out Tuesday. I don't know if they're doing interviews or anything on Monday. I assume it's going to be on Tuesday, so we'll probably find out then.
They do their weekly press conference, and then the SEC press conference is on Wednesday. So I'll try to jump in on that and hear what he has to say. But
I like this question. we'll transition into this. So, and you know more about it than I do, man. So we bring iced tea, liquor, or cold beer, like Pitt said in the post-game interview.
If you watched it on the game and the clock was winding down, you seen him do this. He was winding up, wanting John Daly to throw him a nice cold beer. So after that win, he got him an ice cold beer and drank it after the game.
What do you think Cincinnati brought?
They brought some unsweet tea and tried to put one package of, they're up north. They don't know how to do
right.
Tea.
No, they don't. They don't even have sweetener.
Put a little bit of Splenda in their sweet tea and tried to call it sweet tea. Yeah,
I'll give them some credit. I think that they brought a little bit of maybe some Mike's Hard Lemonade.
So if you want to go alcoholic, they brought Smirnoff Ice.
Okay.
Cool back in the day. It was cool, the Zima. It was cool back in the 90s, but they tried to bring something to the big boy table, and it fell short.
I figured you'd have a better analysis than I do.
Oh yeah.
Chuck says.
I wouldn't even get them credit for that. 'Cause Long Island Ice Tea is good. That's hard. I don't know if you've had a good Long Island Ice Tea, but that stuff's hard. They had the Arnold Palmer. They had the sweet tea and lemonade with no alcohol in it.
Yeah, I'll say it was more of the Mountain Dew, hard Mountain Dew. I mean, it doesn't have any sugar in it, and it doesn't taste very great. But at least they brought something. They brought something cheap.
Oh, so that's like the Mad Dog 2020 and the R&R. We called it Running Rope back in the day because if you drank that, you was throwing up. So that R&R liquor, if it was on the bottom shelf, that was when you were digging in your pockets to have a good time.
Yeah, I figure if you go back about 40-something years ago, maybe 35, when Sam Pittman was roaming the sidelines at Pittsburgh State, drinking a good cold, ice cold, was it Coors Light in that picture? I think it was Coors Light. So that's probably what he was planning on drinking last night. But man, that was I wanted to get that question in there just because of that. Also, Dallas said, what about Hornsby? Should he get some more touches next game?
I don't know. That one's a tough one for me because, goodness gracious, I don't think so. I think you need to, unless it's something where KJ starts getting banged up. If he feels fatigued, you know you got a
Yeah.
guy to throw in there. But specific packages for him or to bring him in, this is a very important year for Arkansas. And this is what if I was a head coach or if I was, wanting to talk to Malik about coming back, is like, you buy into our program, you buy into us, you stay with us, you will be the starter next year. You're promised you're the starter next year. Again, if KJ's hurt or he's just fatigued, he wants a series out, or if the game's in hand, which with the South Carolina game he might be. They might have this game in hand in the fourth quarter. But when it comes to end the game, when you're trying to get a momentum, especially with what we've seen from KJ with his underthrow, and there was some people that was saying, KJ was cramping up. He pointed to his leg after that one throw out of the end zone. So, but I wouldn't have him in there if you're trying to get your rhythm going, especially this early in the season.
Now, what about at wide receiver though? Would you play him for a couple of snaps at wide receiver?
No. I would put him in I'd put him in a slot, like I said last week. I would put him in a slot to run like a decoy play, maybe to where you bring him in motion, maybe hand it off to him, or bring him in motion, play action pass. Either you're handing the ball off to him or you're having him throw the ball on a gimmick play. But to have him run a route or in a series, no, I wouldn't, because then you got to realize if you're having him go in a series, that's more time he's having to practice to run those routes, run that series.
Yeah.
That's less time you're taking away him getting those second team reps, especially what we've seen with KJ. Yes, it's 11 o'clock kickoff, but we've seen how muggy and humid it is. If KJ starts cramping, you're going to need Malik to come in there. I know South Carolina's down, but still they're an SEC team. You can't afford to, I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on this season, but to me, this is one of the most important seasons when it comes to this program, because you did it last year, but you got to do it again. You got to keep building, because you got two teams out west coming to your conference in a couple of years. You want to put as much distance between you and A&M, LSU, Texas, and OU that you can by the time they come in, because that's going to be very important. Where are you going to stay the top three, or are you going to fall behind and be in the middle of the pack? And I think you keeping KJ and you going with that one quarterback system, you trust in him, especially what he's done. I don't think you play around with him.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because if I don't want to sit him in the slot either, because I don't want to see him get waylaid either, and then you lose your second string wide receiver or second string quarterback there, playing him at wide receiver. I think you, just because of what you saw Saturday with Trey Knox, with Hazelwood, with Landers, and Katron Jackson, who didn't register a catch, but he was blocking downfield and on that Trey Knox touchdown. He was blocking downfield and made sure he opened that hole for Trey down the sideline. So these guys are bought in. I don't think you need a Malik. I think you might have needed Malik back in the spring, just because you didn't know what you had. But I think you know what you had now. I think you should feel comfortable with just saying, hey, Malik, we'll get you a gadget play in there every once in a while like we did on Saturday, but throwing the double pass with you. But I wouldn't put him back at wide receiver again, letting him catch passes in the slot.
And here's where I will kind of almost not contradict myself, but if I was to put him in a situation, you got a guy at Hazelwood. You got to account for Hazelwood. You've got to account for Knox.
Yeah.
You really got to kind of keep your eye on Warren Thompson. What if you put now to where you even got to try to find now here comes Hornsby out in the slot. Why is he there? You're making them think.
Right.
Why is he there? But then you're spreading it out, and then you run a quarterback draw. I mean, anything, and even if he doesn't do anything, you could still say that's a gimmick, is bringing him in as a decoy. Like, even if you put him out of slot or put him out wide, put Warren Thompson in the slot or Knox, you put three on one side. Doing anything to make that defense guess on what you're trying to do gives you nothing but an advantage, because especially when you got a running quarterback and somebody who can throw the ball. And until KJ gets his confidence where he knows he can make those throws that he was missing against Cincinnati, or he's got his legs underneath him where he's confident where he can throw the ball and run it, then you try that. But I don't think we'll see any of it in the South Carolina game. Maybe, depending on how much they want to show Texas A&M. Do they do it in the Missouri State game? But if they were going to do anything, it would start, I would say, Texas A&M or Alabama.
Yeah.
They were gonna, and that
I think
gameplay.
The only time I'll think about seeing Malik Hornsby on the field now is against Missouri State. Honestly, I think he'll play some second team reps. I don't think you see him at all at the wide receiver position. Chuck said something about the guy behind him, which is Cade Fortin. Thanks, Dalla, for sharing that. But yeah, Cade Fortin has really done well, but I don't think he's going to be your second string guy to say, just because what Malik Hornsby, the value that he brings to the table there. I don't think anybody's going to pass up Malik just because of his raw ability, and because the dude has speed for days. And we saw that on that 14-yard scamper.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's just insane how fast he is. Like, just standing still. And in 2 steps, you have separation?
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. So I would, you don't mess up Malik, man. That's your future.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And you talk about having KJ in a system for 2 years. You're grooming Hornsby. You think that you got 2 years to where you're learning behind one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. Your mental headspace. Yes, you might have all the talent in the world, but you got to have it up here if you're going to be that elite quarterback in the SEC. You got to know who you're throwing to. You got to have confidence. You got to make those. Some of the hardest throws are the easiest ones. We look at those throws that were the guys were wide open. It was almost like too good to be true. Those are the ones where it was harder because it's almost like you just throw it, dump it out there. You're not really worried about your technique and where you release the ball, opposed to if you're throwing it in double coverage, or if you got a guy, you got to lob it over where you got to put that touch on that ball. I think it's true, and that maybe that's why he was underthrowing someone. But I'm very, with Malik, he is the future of this team, and you got to protect him. And that's another reason, like what you were saying, you don't want to chance him coming in and getting an ACL injury, but it is football, and things are going to happen.
That's what happens.
Where it happens, but you're at a rock and a hard place. He's like almost that athlete that's too good to not play, but yet you kind of want to make sure you keep him for the your future, and that's where I'm conflicted on. Do they play him or do they not? But I think he's going to come in handy. I think he's going to be a good little make somebody think down the road. Like,
right,
you put him out there, maybe you do a draw, maybe you mix it up, bring him in. If you just bring him in one time and they're like, okay, when he comes in, this is what's going to happen, that's not going to work. You got to bring him in multiple times. You got to do different things with him.
Right.
That way it gets them guessing what's going to happen when he comes in. Hey, you might even know. You might put him at quarterback and put KJ at the slot just to throw this thing off. There's so much you can do. And it's funny how when you say you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. But you look at that instance, you kind of do have 2 quarterbacks that you can mix things up. So
yeah. But you do know, but that's a different instance, though, because you know who the starter is.
Yeah.
With KJ. But then you think about it, you've got 2 guys that can go out there and they play 2 different styles of football. Kind of like what the difference between Desmond Ridder was for Cincinnati and what Ben Bryant is for them now. Yeah. They bring 2 different things to the table because you don't want to get run over by the Mack truck. The Peterbilt, for dang sake, like KJ Jefferson. You don't want to get run over by him, but you also don't want to get run past by Malik Hornsby. So that they are 2 different issues there. Because I think if you don't know who your starter is, that's the issue. But if you know who your starter is, and you have a problem there at your second string guy who can make guys miss in space, you've got a good deal.
Well, and the last point I want to make on it is, this is all talk, speculation, but Sam Pittman's proven that he is the utmost outstanding guy, okay? They've probably already had this talk. They've probably laid all this out, Malik knows his role.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the what ifs, but I'm telling you, I don't see Sam Pittman as a BSer. I don't think he would BS Malik and sell him false promises. I think he's told him exactly what the plan is for him this year and next year. And apparently whatever he said to him got him to come back. So we can sit here and say what we think, but I trust Sam Pittman just as much as the players do. I trust Barry Odom just as much as the players do, and I trust Kendall Bryce. I trust Hunter Yurachek. This is the most faith I've had in this program I'm 40, so 35, 36 years of really like paying attention to the program in some capacity. But this is the most faith, the most fun that I remember everything being. Yeah. So until he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. But I mean, how they use Malik is going to be a mystery. But when we know when he's on the field, something magical and something explosive can happen.
You're exactly right. And I think to wrap this pod up, I mean, you did see a little bit of the soccer team and volleyball team coming up big this week. I want to give a shout out to them.
Yes. I mean, volleyball team, man, going out to Fort Collins and playing Colorado State, Alabama State, and Florida Gulf Coast, not even dropping a set, not just winning. They didn't even drop a set out there. Their only loss on the season is to 8th-ranked Washington, which they beat. They split that series. So this team, you're talking about having freshmen and having transfers and having, Taylor Head, Gillen, Maggie Cartwright, the heart of their team back. And then you go to the soccer team and they're big, it's weird you say big 1-0 win. I mean, it's kind of like baseball, but there's not that much scoring in soccer. They played Arkansas State last week, blew that game open. I mean, I think it was, it was 2-0 at halftime, and I had to leave. But by the time I got to the Hopper Tunnel, it was already 4-0, 4-1. I mean, it was just, that's how quick this team is. And they got some freshmen, 3 freshmen, 4 freshman starters. And there's one, her last name's Ezrin, and she's a track star from Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. And I'm telling you, the speed that these girls have. And Franklin scored the game-winning goal today, the only goal today. But I'm telling you that between the volleyball team and this soccer team, very exciting. Coach Hale, Coach Watson, I mean, another one of these programs. I mean, soccer has cemented themselves back-to-back SEC titles. I mean, I went there last Sunday and there was 1,500 people there. That just shows you opening game, home game, when 1,500 people come to the women's soccer game, that shows you what that program's done. Next in line's volleyball. That's that next team, that next program up and coming. And we've seen where 30, 40 people has been in Barnhill. Now they're getting to the point to where 1,000 to 1,200 will show up to their matches. So they play next Sunday. I'm going to go to the next Sunday matchup. And I've lost track on who they play next Sunday, but it's next Sunday at 1 o'clock. But I'm telling you, the volleyball team, it's very exciting to watch. I've watched it on TV a lot, watch it on ESPN Plus, SEC Plus, soccer team. I mean, a lot of good things are happening. And what we've said with the success of this football team, it's going to cause more people to want to go check these other teams out. So, if you're in town, if you're ever, check the schedules out. There's always something cool going on in Fayetteville. No matter what sport it is, it's really fun to go watch and support these other teams that are playing at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah. Oh, I did mention to University Traditions that I would give them a shout out for the hat. You can go to universitytraditions.biz, and if you want a hat like this, I mean, I've never worn a hat with a string on it before in my life, but man, I tell you what, I look good. When you look good, you feel good too. So hey, so I know. Yeah, I'm what is it? What did old Ric Flair say? I'm the limo riding, best looking man. Yeah. Oh man, son of a gun.
I want to give a shout out to our fans, man. Dollar DP, Pendergrass, all the guys who interacted. Look, we're getting more and more interaction. Love it. Bring the questions, bring the comments. Again, our DMs are always open. Even after the show, if you have some comments, if you want to interact with us, if your thoughts, get our thoughts about the upcoming game. we're again on Wednesday. We're going to do a Spaces on Twitter after the interview. So tune into the live interview at 8:30 with the Spurs Up show. Listen to his thoughts on South Carolina. Jump into the Spaces. We'll probably start about 10-15 minutes after that. So, and I don't know, Jacob, if you'll be available too, or we might both be in there. It might just be Jacob, might just be me. We'll see how everything plays, but we'll definitely have our Spaces going. And I really like that. It was interesting because it was the first time I've ever done that. So it was kind of a different atmosphere, different kind of interaction. So it was cool. It was fun. And we finally got it going. I think, I don't know. I'm going to ask you about that. Is there like a time limit on that?
No, you can go all night.
Okay. Because I went and all of a sudden it just cut off. So I had to start a take 2. And I don't even know if it was probably my fault, but no, thank you for everybody for your interactions tonight. Thank you for the views. We're getting more and more views, more and more likes. Our followers are going up. Our fans are going up. We're getting noticed out and about in the public eye. So that's what we do it for. We do it for the fans. Yeah. This is a show for the fans, made by the fans. So it's really awesome where we've come in the 4 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And also, if you want to give us a star rating and a subscription there on Apple Podcasts too. Yes. That way, if you're not watching live, you can catch it there on iTunes or Spotify, and you can find us everywhere. I think you can find us on iHeartRadio and all that too. Okay. So, and you can always find us on 103.7 The Buzz too with their shows
that comes on at 5:00 in the mornings on the Buzz.
A little early. But hey, if you don't mind listening to me during your morning rush to work on 106.7, in Central Arkansas, I mean, there's no better way to get ready for work than listening to me and Porter.
I don't know if you want us putting you to sleep on your way to work. That makes it a long day. So, but hey, that will do it. Love our fans. Love everybody involved in our production, our sponsors.
Absolutely,
Jacob. I mean, we've been doing this. It's been incredible, and we're going to keep this thing trucking. We will catch you Wednesday night, but for another episode of the Hog Talk Podcast, I am your host, Porter Hayes. Alongside me is your host, Jacob Scott Davis. We will catch you on Wednesday.
Go Hog.